Today is going to be day 5 of slope stuff, and it's going to be called proportional relationships. And it sounds like it might be complicated, but just like some of the other stuff as far as slope, it's really not super complicated. So anytime you have a proportional relationship, or anytime they say that this table or this graph or this equation is proportional, all that means is that your line, graph, or equation would go through the origin, or in other words, that little point right in the middle of a graph that says 0, 0, that's where your line would go through. So if they ever give you any sort of equation and ask you, hey, is this equation proportional? All right, you have to make sure that it only has this, y equals, you need to make sure it only has your slope and then the x right next to it. So there is no plus b part. There's no plus 1 or plus 1/2 or minus 2 or minus 0.2. There's nothing after the x, okay? So that's if they give you an equation. If they wind up giving you a table and asking if it's proportional, there are two ways to be able to figure it out. Either you can take a y, put it over an x, like so. Take 2, put it over 1, and divide and see what you get. And then it better be the same exact thing as if you took the 4 and put it over the 2 and divided. Same thing with the 6 and put it over 3 and divided, okay? So not super complicated. You have to be able to get the same division answer anytime you have a table. If you get even one different number, then it's not right, and it is not proportional then. Another way that you can look at a table is if they already have the what's called the origin, or they already have points called 0, 0 on your table, then it is going to be proportional automatically. Okay, so there's two different ways you can be able to find out through a table. Technically, there's a third with the calculator, but we'll be sure to go over that later. And then for a graph, super, super easy. All you have to do is just look with your eyes and see if your line goes through the origin, or in other words, 0, 0. Okay? So this is kind of just telling you what y equals mx means. Just like the slope notes, we took that m, of course, means your slope. And then your x is just one of the x values. Your y on the y equals part is just one of the y values. Okay, so let's go to this example right here. So it says, is this example, or is this table, sorry, an example of a proportional relationship? Check your ratios. So since we can't quite see any sort of 0, 0 on this table, then all we're going to do is just take our coordinates right here. Put y over x and divide, and we have to be able to get the same number over and over again, the same answer. So if I put change in y over change in x, which is another way to get slope, which is basically what that's telling you. Then for this first coordinate, we've got 2 over 1. Well, what does that simplify down to if you put in the calculator? Just 2. Okay. All right, so that means that if I do the same thing with these other setups, I better be able to get 2. If I don't, then it's not proportional. So let's try it for the other ones. So change in y over change in x. So 4 over 2. Whenever I put that in the calculator and divide, what do I get? Right, I just get 2. So we're looking good so far. Yay. So let's see if we get the same thing for this last setup. So if you put that into the calculator, you should get 2 as well. All right, so since we got the same answer whenever we put the y's over the corresponding x's, that means that this table is indeed proportional. Another way we could have seen if it was proportional is if they had this coordinate somewhere in there. If they had that coordinate automatically in there somewhere, then we wouldn't have even had to have done this. We could have just said, oh, it has 0, 0. That table's proportional. All right, so then let's try for the graph. So it says, does the graph show a proportional relationship? Check the origin, in other words, okay? So looking at that graph, is that proportional, as in does it go through 0, 0? Yes, it does, right here. That does indeed go through 0, 0. Okay, so does the graph have a proportional relationship? Ooh, come on, focus, please. There we go. We're going to say yes. And sorry, I didn't make us put yes here as well, because that was proportional for that table. And then here's a bonus question. Is this relationship linear? So anytime you hear that, there's a word that's inside the word linear, and it is line, okay? So anytime you see any question like this, is this relationship linear? That means, is it a straight line? But if you look here, that line is pretty straight, so we'll say yes. All right, so go ahead and try this little area right here. You have to be able to say if it's proportional or not, and then why. All right, so we'll go ahead, see what you get for those answers, and we'll check it over really quick.